Tonight, police threatened with a knife. An anonymous tip-off leads to a huge cannabis crop being discovered at the back of a Peterborough home. And Whyalla venues to pocket some of the profits from the upcoming Unearthed Festival.
From our 7 Spencer Gulf Studios, your nightly news with Madeline Kerr begins now.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. First tonight, police have been threatened with a knife during a drug operation in Peterborough following a tip-off about a cannabis crop. Annabelle Francis has more.
That's right, Maddie. Just after 11 a.m. yesterday, police attended a home in Peterborough in relation to a cannabis crop. But when they arrived, they were confronted with a man wielding a brick and a knife. Officers from Jamestown, Hallett, Yunta and the Traffic Support Branch negotiated with the occupant, urging him to discard the weapons. After trying to punch the officers, the 66-year-old man was restrained and arrested without further incident. Continuing their search, police allegedly uncovered 20 fully grown cannabis plants growing at the back of the property. The man has since been charged with a number of drug-related offences as well as the alleged assault of emergency workers. He was bailed to appear in the Peterborough court on the 19th of April. Meantime, on the same day, police were called to another home in Peterborough, where police found half a dozen cannabis plants as well as a gel blaster. The man inside the Railway Terrace home was reported for the alleged drug possession and for having an unregistered firearm in his possession. Maddie, the 50-year-old man, will attend court at a later date. And police are once again reminding locals that if you do have a gel blaster, you have a firearm.
Indeed, Annabelle, thank you. Well, meantime, in Broken Hill, police are looking for a woman who has been missing since 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon. Her name is Caitlin Murray. She's 23 years old and was last seen on Williams Lane. At the time, Caitlin was wearing ripped black jeans, a black t-shirt and a grey cardigan. She has a locket and a key tattoo on her left forearm and a floral leaf tattoo on her chest and is around 160 to 165 centimetres tall. Anyone with information on Caitlin's whereabouts is urged to contact Crime Stoppers or Broken Hill Police Station immediately. Whyalla's Unearthed Festival will see thriving live performances all throughout March, once again pushing the city into the spotlight. And it's not just musicians and dancers reaping the rewards. Local businesses are set to get their time in the sun as venues for the event.
Boosting cash flow with music and art. Whyalla businesses are preparing for the economic benefits brought on by the upcoming Unearthed Festival. The citywide event will see a variety of touring and local performers take to the stage to entertain, and this time it won't just be the audience cheering, with the City Council selecting local businesses and sporting clubs to act as venues and take a slice of the profits.
There's this emphasis also on country areas and making sure that they get support to put on great events like Unearthed here in Whyalla.
Some of the local venues set to benefit are the Left Hand Club, Seaview Cafe, O'Kippos and the South Whyalla Football Club. Each is stocked up on food and drinks in preparation for big crowds set to pile in for the shows and stay for the good times afterwards.
We're actually looking forward to it. Good conversations with the council about it. We've got a few things set up.
Local operators are looking to the Unearthed Festival as a chance to draw in new patrons and even tourists and turn them into regular customers. The council says the events are a win-win, entertaining the community while also showcasing artists, our city and its hard-working business owners.
So it's all positive, it all makes the region more vibrant, it's good for local residents and it's good for people that come from elsewhere.
Edwin McCarroll, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Corn came alive over the weekend with the Rock the Ranges Music Festival hailed a massive success. Bands entertained the masses over 2 days, with Birds of Tokyo one of the highlights.
After months of planning, postponements and a venue change, Rock the Ranges finally took off on Friday night. The cool change on Saturday brought welcome relief as day 2 saw crowds snag a good spot to sit back and relax or up close to the stage. Local food businesses were in hot demand as bands like Hussey Hicks and End of Fashion rocked Quorn Oval before meeting up with fans at the merch shed.
It's great. I have to admit, I haven't spent heaps of time in Quorn, but we have driven through this regional area a couple of times, and we did the Adelaide Guitar Festival, so we did like Cleve and some of the Elliston, some of the little areas, Tumby Bay and that.
Nice and full now. They fed us just as soon as we got off stage, so yeah. Was a bit sweaty for a minute, but apparently it wasn't as hot today as it has been up in these parts, so yeah, thankfully we got a little break in the weather.
We brought some nice weather with us.
Yeah.
So you can thank us for that a bit later.
But the big draw card everyone wanted to see was Birds of Tokyo, who took to the stage with gusto and thrilled the crowd with an epic performance of all their hits.
It's been wonderful so far. It's not often that we get to come and play these parts of the country, so each time we come here, it's always something new. It's always super cool, so yeah, we're glad to be here.
Frontman Ian Kenny says performing in Quorn was a delight. Daniel Pizarro, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Meantime, Broken Hill locals can get their live music fix next month, with the Rock the Park pencilled in for March 12th. The Patton Village Committee will host the all-ages event the day after the St Pat's races. Local bands will take to the stage at Patton Park, including the likes of Scream Street, Broken and Clouded. And like any good festival, there will be plenty of local food and drink vendors and entertainment for the kids. Still to come tonight, calls for rockets not to be launched out of Whalers Way. And $5,000 a pop, sunken abandoned boats costing Port Pirie ratepayers precious dollars. Welcome back. Boat licence agreements are once again up for debate after Port Pirie Council was forced to recover 2 sunken vessels off Fisherman's Jetty recently. The retrieval and disposal left council footing the bill to the tune of $10,000.
Questioning the way boats are moored along the Port Pirie River.
We had an old style permit, and with recent events where we've had at least 2 boats sink, we had to look at, what the permit conditions were, and we discovered that they weren't really up to current standards.
Last year, Council introduced licence agreements requiring boat owners to hold public liability insurance and to register and insure their boats. For majority of boat owners, this wasn't a problem. But some of the boats hooked up to the jetty were just too old and decrepit to be insured.
If one of the boats that is not insured was to sink, then it would be on the ratepayers to have to cost through Council's general expenditure.
To avoid this from happening, Council has introduced a sinking fund agreement for those unable to obtain insurance.
Found that they're very, very happy to go ahead with that because they can't get insurance, but we've also tweaked it a little bit so that they can pay that levy on a quarterly basis so that it's not a big strike on the financial things.
Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Grain Producers SA is calling on local farmers to take their new responsible spray applicator pledge. With chemicals used in farming prone to drifting over neighbouring properties and waterways, spraying crops can affect our health, animals and the environment. In response, a new online pledge has been launched to educate farmers on spray drift to ensure they're using best practices when spraying agrochemicals on their farms. The Australian First initiative is a voluntary online resource designed to highlight and reward responsible grain producers. As rockets reach for the sky at Whalers Way, many are fired up about the environmental impact. Some people are asking the orbital launch complex to be moved somewhere else.
In an area frequented for its beautiful views and protected wildlife, stumbling across Southern Launch's rocket launch pad is the last thing you'd expect.
Why on earth would you sacrifice a beautiful part of our state and our planet for an industry that could be put in a more appropriate place?
Posing a potential threat to conservation efforts and tourism, many say Whalers Way is the wrong place for space.
When I hear the Nature Conservation Society of South Australia, who's now 50 years old, say this is one of the worst decisions they've seen in the entirety of their existence as an organisation, you have to scratch your head and wonder why.
Greens parliamentary co-leader Tammy Franks says Port Lincoln locals are apprehensive about the site's environmental impact.
The locals aren't buying it, the Greens aren't buying it, and other members of the public increasingly aren't buying it, that due diligence has been done here to protect this precious environment.
Some locals even made the trip to Adelaide to share their concerns.
Many Port Lincoln locals came down and they were on the steps of Parliament House to be heard by the members of Parliament.
Tammy has called for an inquiry into the decision-making process and subsequent impact of the Whalers Way site selection.
Whalers Way is the wrong place for space, and let's get it right if we want to have a space industry that succeeds.
Alison Hall, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Local runners, swimmers and cyclists are warming up for the Whyalla Triathlon, returning to the Steel City this weekend. Organisers are expecting a strong turnout of athletes this year who are ready to ride, swim and run their way to victory. The long-range weather forecast is looking favourable for the event, with contestants urged to complete their online entry before the cut-off time of 10 p.m. on Thursday. Many people from neighbouring cities are expected to descend upon Whyalla to try and win the event as well. Stay with us after the break. The huge impact these tiny creatures are having on Port Lincoln's seafood industry. And organisers hoping for a big turnout at this weekend's Clean Up Australia Day in Broken Hill. Welcome back. The secret to Port Lincoln's bustling fishing industry may have just been revealed. The seafood capital has nanophytoplankton to thank for its thriving marine ecosystem, but it'll be very hard to shake their hands. Alison Hall has the story.
Measuring even smaller than the width of a human hair, nanophytoplankton are the unsung heroes of the Eyre Peninsula's aquatic food chain.
We know in the eastern Great Australian Bight we have whales, we have sharks, we have seals, we have tuna, and it's the phytoplankton which actually initiates this entire highly productive food web.
Previously thought to be very low in plankton biomass, scientists say the findings point to a year-round supply of nutrients fueling the marine food chain.
And what we now discovered is that this phytoplankton exists at relatively high levels throughout the year. So we now have a much better understanding of how the entire food chain of the eastern Great Australian Bight works, how it functions.
The booming fishing industry in Port Lincoln can be attributed to this discovery.
Without the existence of these phytoplankton blooms, Port Lincoln would be a little, maybe with 1,000 people.
Good news for everyone in Port Lincoln. Now, who's going to jump in and deliver the news to our marine life?
Maybe they heard you, Ali. Thank you. Moving on, Broken Hill's Tidy Towns Committee will be doing its bit for Clean Up Australia Day this weekend. The committee recently did a clean-up of the cemetery about a week ago and will be returning this Saturday for round 2. 50 volunteers showed up at last week's event and organisers are hoping even more will come this weekend. If you would like to help out, be at the Broken Hill Cemetery at 7:30 on Saturday. Gloves, bags and tools will be supplied, but people should bring a hat, sturdy shoes and a water bottle. And Broken Hill's 2Dry FM will be holding a special broadcast for International Women's Day. The community radio station will be going live for the annual Women's Day brunch held at the Astra Hotel. The presenters will then head back to the studio and tell the stories of the women from the Silver City. And if you would like to tell your story, contact 2Dry FM. Stay with us after the break. Soccer pre-season heating up in Whyalla. And the final few hours of summer. We'll have the weather details with Alex Sykes. Welcome back. The soccer pre-season is underway in Whyalla, with Steel United looking like a force to be reckoned with. Here's Daniel Pizarro with this week's Sports Wrap.
The beautiful game is starting to rear its head across the region. Not only is training already begun, but several pre-season games are already done. The Lightning rounds were 10 games in total, with each team playing 4 times in total over 2 days. And the clear winners were Steel United. They won all their Day 1 matches, including a 2-0 smash against Westlands United, 1-0 against the Lions, and drew 1-1 with the Wanderers. We'll bring you more results as they come to hand. Looking at basketball in Port Augusta, round 15 of A-grade men saw the Eagles defeat the Cobras by 9 points, while the Wildcats were no match for the Titans. Round 16 begins tonight. Meanwhile, A-grade women's had the Spartans destroy Spartans Maroon 74-29, while Spartans Grey took down Falcons Yellow by 15 points. Falcons Black had the bye. In Whyalla, the Roos were too good for the Wildcats, and tonight we see the Titans take on the Roos. Women's A-grade basketball had its penultimate round, wins for the Roos by 7 points, while the Demons lived up to their name, downing the Titans by 9. Over in Port Lincoln, the regular season of the PLBA has wrapped up. Lincoln Souths emerged the winners against Tasman convincingly, while the Rangers took out the Breakers. The Sharks had the bye. Finals begin on Monday. The women's division still has one more round left. The Rangers just pipped Lincoln South by 1 point. Wayback had a bigger win over Tasman, and Breakers had the bye. Finally to softball, the Solly Cats won their game over Checkmates 5-2, with players like Sam Burt getting her side over the line. Elsewhere, the Cougars managed to stare down a big challenge from the Tigers to take their match 10-6. That's it for this week's Sports Wrap. Remember, if you would like to see your team's results on the news, contact us via our Facebook page. And Maddie, I can say that anyone who has been training or playing a sport in Port Augusta is certainly revelling in this cooler weather. I'm even wearing a black shirt. Back to you.
I'm sure it makes exercising much more tolerable, Daniel. Thank you. And I have a feeling even more cooler weather is on the way, as today marks the last day of summer. Well, speaking of weather, it's time to check in with Alex Sykes. Alex, autumn tomorrow.
The year is absolutely flying by, Maddie. I can't believe it's almost March. But I digress. Let's take a look at some of today's standout temperatures. Just 27 degrees in Port Augusta today, around 6 degrees cooler than the average February temperature. Slightly cooler in Port Pirie, recording 25.2 degrees at 1:40, a touch under 36 degrees in Cooper Pedy. Looking more broadly at today's weather map now, 34 degrees in Broken Hill this afternoon. Woodner recorded 27, 24 in both Whyalla and Kadina, and a very comfortable top of 22 degrees in Port Lincoln. Taking a look at the satellite image now, cloud over the southeast is bringing the odd light shower over parts of Kangaroo Island. Clear skies elsewhere with a dry air mass. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. Southerly winds 15 to 20 knots, seas between 1 and 1.5 metres, and south to southwesterly swell below a metre, increasing up to 1.5 metres. A cloudy start to autumn in Port Lincoln tomorrow, set to reach a high of 23 degrees there, just 22 in Cleve, cloudy conditions as well, and a partly cloudy top of 27 in Woodner. Between 16 and 25 in Whyalla on Wednesday, partly cloudy there, mostly sunny, and 27 in Port Augusta. Kadina heading for a top of 26. Cloud clearing around Port Pirie, a high of 29 degrees there, down to single digits in Clare tonight, warming up to 24 degrees tomorrow, and mostly sunny between 14 and 28 in Broken Hill. Taking a look further through the week now, sunny in parts of the Spencer Gulf on Thursday, 28 degrees on the way for Port Augusta and Port Pirie. Pirie, 25 in Whyalla, partly cloudy. Cloudy conditions around Port Lincoln, 22. Moving on to Friday's outlook now, temperatures between 23 in Port Lincoln to 33 up in Cooper Pedy, 30 degrees in both Woodner and Broken Hill. And finally, taking a quick look at how Saturday's shaping up, and it's looking more like a summer's day than an autumn one. Blue skies just about everywhere except for Port Lincoln, partly cloudy, top of 25 there, sunny and 29 in Whyalla and Kadina, 32 in Port Pirie, Port Augusta blue skies and 34 degrees. And Maddie, while I'll be sad to see summer go, I know you're looking forward to the cooler months. It's back to you.
You know me too well, Alex. Thank you. I do love winter. And that's the local news this Tuesday. I'm Madeline Kerr. From all of us here, thanks for joining us. I'll have updates a little later, but until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.